Always a lot of excitement about Palantir reporting on big retail investor interest, also seen as one of the leaders when it comes to AI software. I want to get your take on the stock. And also, we kind of called them a defense and AI darling. I think it's important to note the commercial business has now become about half of revenue. So I want to get a sense. How do you view this company?
Yeah, so Palantir is very much an AI darling right now for the market, and it's also one of the stocks that investors and particularly retail investors are very enthusiastic about. So it almost feels like it's taken some of the shine from Nvidia this year, particularly with the performance that it's delivered. So it's a leader in AI, particularly around optimization. They have about 600 million in government contracts that are pending with NATO. They are quantum computer ready. So essentially, this is a company that wins with data mining, data centers, optimization, things like this. So they'll be both quantum ready and then government contract ready for defense. To your point, both private sector, commercial sector leader. And we're expecting a lot of growth, right? We're looking for 36% growth on revenues. We're looking for 60% on EPS. The stock was up over triple digits, 300% plus last year. As you said, close to 60% this year to date. And I mean, that's a good story. They've had 6 consecutive quarters of revenue growth. That's a stellar report for an AI company.
All right, so you seem to be very bullish on this company, but in all fairness, there are some detractors. There's a Barron's article out over the weekend just kind of questioning some of the big moves, basically saying, this was the headline, actually, I'm reading it, Palantir stock price, quote unquote, doesn't make any sense. They're quoting somebody else. I'm looking at the valuation. Palantir trades at about 220 times forward earnings. What does this report have to show you to justify a valuation that rich?
Yeah, and again, I would bring this back to Nvidia, right? I think a lot of analysts, and there were a lot of similar articles out there for years really about that stock as it kept growing and growing and growing. I just think that Palantir right now just has a really solid tailwind, and it's growing into its valuation. The earnings are delivering, their projects are delivering. Their outlook for projects in AI growth are delivering. Again, they're going to be the leader, as you said, second biggest holding in quantum, leader in quantum. I just think that the sky is the limit. You're talking about between AI and quantum. AI has about a 39% CAGR through 2030. For quantum, it's about 25% through 2030 and higher after. You're talking about trillions of dollars of growth and a company that is the #1 or #2 leader in this field. So I just think that it's going to justify its valuations over time.
Sylvia, I've had the pleasure of spending some time with Dr. Karp, interviewed him a number of times, and also just talked to him about his philosophy when it comes to the development of AI. One of his themes is ontology. You got to Google that for anybody watching. Don't have time to explain it. But you mentioned that this stock's become more important than Nvidia. So this report, what else is it going to have an influence on in your mind? What other companies, what other sectors?
Right. So I do think that it'll have some influence on the quantum names, and I do think that it will have influence on the AI names, including Nvidia. So if you saw what happened last week, I mean, we've had kind of a great rally over the last 9 days or so. We'll see what happens today, but one of the reasons for that was tech earnings last week, right? The market really liked that. I think there's so much pessimism out there, and that was a good omen for the market. If you have that with Palantir again today, maybe that gives a bump to some of the AI names that haven't been getting as much love as they had last year and the year prior. So I think look to all of the AI names and semiconductor names to rally if they have a good call.